what crime was I killed? What? For what crime was he killed? For what crime was she killed? For what crime was I killed? For what? That would contribute to these events.
I am not wanting in respect for the fathers of this country. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were great men, great enough to give frame to a great age. And though it does not often happen to a nation to raise at one time such a number of truly great men, the point from which I am compelled to view them is not certainly the most favorable, and yet I cannot contemplate their great deeds with less than admiration. Fellow white citizens, allow me to ask, why have I been called to speak here today? What have I or those that I represent to do with your national independence? Are the promises of 40 acres and a mule embodied within that extension of independence to us? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? I pray to God, both for your sakes and ours, that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions. Then would my task be light and my burden easy and delightful? For who is so selfish that he would not give his voice to swell the hallelujahs of a nation's jubilee when the chains of servitude had been torn from his limbs? I am not that man. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by us. The sunlight that brought light and healing to you has brought death and stripes to my people. This 4th of July is yours, not ours. We celebrate June 19th. And while you may rejoice, we must mourn again. To choke a black man to death in a live broadcast as he calls out for his mother and then call upon us to join you in joyous anthems are inhuman mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizens, to mock us by acting as if black lives don't matter? Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions whose chains, heavy and grievous yesterday, are today rendered more intolerable by the police brutality that reaches them. I shall see this day in all of its popular characteristics from the slave's point of view. Standing there, identified with the American bondman, making his wrongs mine, I do not hesitate to declare with all my soul that the conduct and character of this nation never looked blacker to me than on this 4th of July 2020. Whether we refer to the declarations of the past or the professions of the present, the conduct of the nation seems equally hideous and revolting towards people of color. America is false to the past, false to the present, and solemnly binds herself to be false to the future. Standing with God and the crushed and bleeding George Floyd on this occasion, I will, in the name of humanity which is outraged, in the name of liberty which is fettered, in the name of the Constitution and the Bible which are disregarded and trampled upon, dare to call into question and to denounce, with all the emphasis I can command, everything that serves to perpetuate slavery, the great sin and shame of America. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse. I will use the severest language I can command, and yet not one word shall escape me that any man whose judgment is not blinded by prejudice or who is not a police officer shall not confess that killing Breonna Taylor was right and just. There is not a man beneath the canopy of heaven that does not know a knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds is wrong for him. What am I to argue? That it is wrong to kill unarmed men, to rob them of their freedom, To work them for 50 cents a day in the U.S. slave camps? To keep them ignorant of their relations to fellow men? To beat them with nightsticks? To tase them without cause? To stop and frisk them? To hunt them with dogs? To deny them health care? To break up their families? To knock out their teeth? To flood their communities with drugs from your military? To choke them till they can't breathe? To starve them into being criminals with college degrees? Must I argue that a system thus stained with blood and pollution is wrong? No, I will not. What then remains to be argued? Is it that slavery is not divine? That God did not establish it? That your doctors of divinity are mistaken? For that which is inhuman cannot be divine. Who can reason on such a proposition? They that can may, I cannot. The time for such argument is past. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the United States must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be shamed. And the hypocrisy of the leadership must be exposed. And its crimes against God and people of color must be proclaimed and denounced. What to the American Negro is your 4th of July? I answer, a day more than any other day in the year that reveals to us the cruelty and injustice for which we are the constant victim. To us, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty an unholy license. Your national greatness swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your inadequate leadership, your false information. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity are to us mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy.
Who decided they ain't staying on no slave ship because this here is our shit? Translation, I'm an American citizen, but home is where my soul is.
Allow me to say in conclusion, notwithstanding the dark picture I have this day presented of the state of the nation, I do not despair of this country. There are forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of racial abuse, prejudice, and inequality. The arm of the Lord is not shortened, and the doom of slavery is certain. Therefore, I leave off where I began, with hope